my initial plan was to sit down and film the BookTube newbie tag, but I got so bored with my own answers when I was working my way through the questions that I just felt like I need to stop. And so what I wanted to do was just talk to you about the books that I'm currently reading and then my plans for this channel, and hopefully that will be less boring and I'm going to try and get through this more quickly than I was getting through the BookTube newbie tag. So I currently am reading 4 books. The first one is The Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I previously read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, which is one of my favourite books of all time. This is about a woman who discovers, or I say she doesn't discover it herself, but she's given a diary that was written by her ancestor, who was a priest in the early 20th century in America. And he is visited by an indigenous man, a Blackfeet Native American, who starts attending his services and eventually, gradually confesses this crime, this horror story that has been his life. It's really, really fascinating. It's reminding me a little bit of Frankenstein in the sense that it's a story within a story within a story. So in Frankenstein, the captain is telling his sister about Frankenstein coming onto the ship, and then Frankenstein's telling his story within the letters that he's writing to his sister, and then within Frankenstein's story you have the creature story. So in this you have the story of the young woman, and then you have the story inside the journal which is telling the story of this indigenous man. It's really, really fascinating. Like I said, it's horror. It's not as good as The Only Good Indians, I would say, but it is really compelling, and I'm about 75 pages from the end, so I'm almost there with that one. The next 3 books are books that I have had on the go for a while, so I like to have lots of books just on the go. I mainly will work my way through one and then have other ones to sort of go back to every now and again. So firstly we have the Dragonlance Chronicles. This is the first trilogy in the Dragonlance series. This is very, very typical fantasy, really easy to read if you like fantasy, so easy to get into, really kind of endearing and just familiar. It's exactly the same as every fantasy book you're ever going to read, but the characters are really lovely. It's really fun. It's really easy. It's just people on a quest, essentially. I'm in the final book of the trilogy, right near the end. I don't read this very often. It's been literal years of me working my way through this. I just read a few chapters every now and again, and then I'll leave it for a bit, and then I'll come back to it in a few months. So hopefully this year I'll get to the end of it. It has been years since I started it. The other fantasy trilogy that I'm currently working my way through is the Gormenghast trilogy by Mervyn Peake. I'm really enjoying this. I read the first book in the trilogy just before New Year's. It's fascinating. Gormenghast is a castle. It's huge. It's falling apart. It's very old, and we're following a very weird family in Gormenghast who have lots of weird traditions that they have to follow. So the historian comes to the Earl and says, oh, well, at 12:45 you need to go down this corridor. They have to do it the same every day. And this picks up as the son, the new Earl, is born, and we're following the establishing of his basically taking over of Gormenghast, and also we're following a guy who's trying to like take it down and overthrow the Earl, and he wants to be in charge and things like that. Really weird, really funny, like genuinely hilarious, and also very dense. And so take that into consideration if you were interested in anything that I just said. There's lots of words in it, by which I mean Mervyn Peake says about 20 words when he could say 5. You know, I love that. I love books that are long and dense. I love books that use language in a really interesting way, and this is definitely one of those. So I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I've only read the first book in the trilogy. I don't know when I'm going to get to the next book, but I'm really enjoying that so far. The last book I have on the go is The Yellow Wallpaper and Selected Writings by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Yellow Wallpaper is a very famous short story about a woman who's put on the rest cure, which was this thing recommended to women who were ill, which was basically you just stay in bed and you don't go anywhere. And obviously that was really bad for their mental health. And this is a book about a woman on the rest cure, and she's slowly becoming obsessed with the patterns in the yellow wallpaper. She thinks there's a woman trapped in the wall, which is really interesting. That's the most famous one, but the rest of the stories are interesting. There's some ghost stories. Mostly they're just little feminist stories, really easy to read. I'm only about halfway through. There's lots of stories in here. I don't read it very often. It's just every now and again I want to read a short story and I read one of these. But I'm enjoying it. Yellow Wallpaper, I think I'm making it up maybe. Is it 1800s? 1890, the Yellow Wallpaper, but still really compelling, really shocking still, and brilliantly written. One of the best short stories ever. So even if you just read that one, it will be worth it. Once I've finished The Buffalo Hunter, I'm not really sure what I'm going to go on to. My plan is to finish this and then start moving on to another book. Really, my aim is to work through the books that I've already got. I do have a lot of books that I haven't read. I've got a lot of books that I have read. My main plan is to sort of get through all of the books that I haven't read and try not to buy too many new ones. I just recently read The Wind Through the Keyhole by Stephen King, which is like book 4.5 in the Dark Tower series. And the reason I read that was because I know that the next Stephen King book is the third book in his Talisman trilogy that he carried with Peter Straub. And apparently it links to the Dark Tower, and I still haven't finished the Dark Tower. As you can see here, this is my Stephen King bookcase. I'm a big Stephen King fan. That's my It shelf behind me here. I love It. It's my favourite book. There's lots of Stephen King I haven't read, so that would be good to get through Stephen King. My plan with this channel is to review the books that I read, essentially. So once this is finished, I'll come on here and talk to you about what I thought about it. I've already told you a little bit about it, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. Maybe I'll do some videos on recommendations and things like that to sort of get me started, but mainly my plan is read a book, come on here, talk about it, and that'll be it mostly. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about the books that I unhaul. I don't think I'm going to be the kind of person who does hauls. I don't enjoy watching hauls. I find them a little bit uncomfortable to watch. I think sometimes, obviously I don't have a problem with people buying books and owning books. I have a lot of books. I don't like watching people buy 100 books and then a year later unhaul those 100 books because they didn't read them and they're not interested anymore. So I will talk about books I unhaul. I work in a library, and so quite often I put books in a bag, which is just over there, and once the bag is full, I take the book to the library, donate all those books, bring the bag back, and I do that a few times throughout the year. So I will talk about that when I unhaul my books, but I think that's probably it for now. I'll review the books that I read, and then I'll talk to you about the books I get rid of, and then maybe I'll talk to you about books I'm planning on reading, or maybe do videos on genres or authors that I really enjoy. Just really, I'll see how I feel on the day. It's really just a thing for me to focus on and just sort of sit down and talk about books, which I don't really get to do very often. Yeah, so if any of that sounds interesting to you, or if you want to hear my thoughts on any other kinds of books, let me know, and I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching.